Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe, here with me is my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
Today we'll be discussing the chapter of the Silmarillion of the Silmarils. In this chapter, Melkor begins playing his political machinations, and boy is he good at it. He completely overwhelms everyone he runs into. He whispers and whispers and whispers into the ears of the Noldor, and he does a bang-up job. He sets everyone against each other, basically acting like an elected official. Mostly talks to the Eldar of the Edain, that is to say, the Secondborn. Well, they're not the Edain yet. Noldor and the other elves were introduced to the idea of humanity, but it's a brutal awakening, and it's done to them in the cruelest possible fashion. The Valar actually have no idea of what's going on with the humans. They're not paying attention. They know nothing of that. But Melkor just tells the elves, you're just a placeholder. They took you off the chessboard so that the humans could get the entire place to themselves. And you have the elves going, well, that's not fair. Melkor basically plays on their feelings of betrayal and hurt, and their outrage directs them against the Valar. And the reason he's doing this is because he's greedy for the Silmarils, which everyone who looks upon the Silmarils wants them. You were going last time, the pinky promise thing. Like, no, Melkor's a liar. He's already lied to you how many times, and you're believing him? And that comes up. It's stated by the narrator, and this is a very fascinating part of the chapter. Melkor was not paying attention when the third music of the Ainur was played. The third theme, he did not listen to it, really. Technically, that's the theme that I would argue relates to the Third Age. But what's interesting about the Third Age is that Melkor has no role in it. So it actually fits with that theme of each theme being a different age. At the same time, it also fits with his attitude of, he's a brilliant artist, so to speak, but he can't quite finish a piece because he gets caught up and distracted by another idea. This is what makes him so dangerous. But also, this is ultimately how victory is seized from the jaws of defeat with him. Although, what's interesting is that a lot of people tend to say this is why Sauron was such a better planner and villain. I'd argue Melkor was even more brilliant than Sauron. Melkor came closer to winning than Sauron ever did. But, on the other hand, I'm biased towards Melkor. But you had a point that you wanted to make about Melkor.
Things exploded a bit out of his control. And from what I read, there was a part of him that's like, ooh.
I disagree. I think that he was the chess master going, everybody else is playing checkers. But they don't realize that we're actually playing a game of chess, and they don't even know how to play the game. I think that it wasn't oops at any point, except for that last part when he kind of mentioned the Valar want those Silmarils. And at that point, Fëanor went, you want it too, don't you? And you have Melkor. That's the only part that he kind of went oops on.
Yeah.
I guess you could extend it to say that he didn't count on Finwe, but then with the events of the next chapter, I'd say actually he did count on messengers being sent to the Valar. He was already prepared for that. What he was not prepared for was having to leave in such a rush because he didn't count on Fëanor seeing through him. He kind of wasn't prepared, but he was, in a way. He had an escape route planned, but he hoped to not use it until a few days later, or a few weeks later, when he had properly corrupted the elves even more. He had to do it prematurely. He had to depart early.
Melkor's the type of villain that, yes, he regularly lies. But when he sees that the person he's trying to trick is catching on, oh, this guy's a chronic liar, he always lies, he starts telling actual truth, saying the truth, so the person would do the opposite.
You just hit upon actually what he does in Children of Húrin. And he also does this in the Fall of Gondolin. He does this in every part of the Silmarillion. You actually hit upon something that's going to come up over and over again later.
Really?
Yes. He always slips in a small truth with his lies. The best lies always have a grain of truth to them. That is Melkor's. He does the same thing to Fëanor. He keeps one truth away, then throws it in his face to destroy everything. He always holds one piece of the truth in reserve so that he can just chuck it into the midst. He lulls the person into a false sense of security with all these lies, then throws one truth bomb that destroys them. He manipulates the situation so that this is the case. Except once. He only kind of flubs up once, and that is with Beren and Luthien. He really miscalculates there. You got to bear in mind, Luthien's essentially the Luke Skywalker. So, of course, she has to win.
Really?
Yeah. You guessed that key problem with Melkor. His greatest strength. He's always got a small piece of the truth in his sleeve. It's truth and lies that keep getting mixed up and tangled because of Melkor. But maybe that's what happens to Sauron, why he is the way he is in Lord of the Rings. Melkor completely twisted his mind so that truth and lies just keep blending together, and he can't quite see reality for what it is. Because he did corrupt Sauron. He corrupted Fankill. He corrupted all these different Maiar. Almost all of them end up unable to see reality for what it is. You happen upon something that he's kind of doing to Feanor, slipping in that little truth, but, like the Valar want the Silmarils. Yeah, they kind of do. But the reason is that the Silmarils come from Yavanna's creation. They want these Silmarils just to treasure them. They don't mind Feanor keeping them. They do want it to stay in Amon, because it's of Amon. Who knows the damage it could do to Middle-earth? Of course, Feanor only thinks of himself, and Melkor, truth and lies all get tangled with each other, and Feanor can't see reality for what it is. And speaking of truth and lies, he becomes convinced by Melkor, arms and hauberks, and him and his 7 sons, who are tremendously talented warriors, come out armed to the teeth to the center of the part of Tirion where the Noldor inhabit. Finwë's palace is right next to Minden Square, which is the center of Tirion. And it's there that Feanor proceeds to draw his sword and threaten Fingolfin, who, yes, he was partially affected by those lies of Melkor. I think the minute Melkor came whispering to Fingolfin, he kind of looked at him and went, oh shoot. And when he saw the effect those lies were having on Feanor and what the truth was, Fingolfin went, I gotta warn Dad. And he goes to Finwë and says, you've got to get Curu Finwë, or Feanor, in line. He's running amok, spreading Melkor's lies throughout the Noldor. He's gonna cause trouble here. And of course, Feanor comes along, draws his sword, and says, you're just trying to steal my inheritance. Which, no offense, but Fingolfin just got finished saying, guy's kind of losing his mind, and to prove that he's wrong, Feanor's going to draw his sword on him and try to kill him. What did you think of that part?
Very Cain and Abel.
That's exactly where Tolkien drew the inspiration.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of as I was reading it.
In some ways, the Feanor story is even more terrifying.
Yeah.
Because Cain was nowhere near as talented as Feanor. Feanor proceeds to weave a path of destruction. Abel is a tragic character in the Bible's literature, but I mean, no offense, but to anyone who's religious or anything, but I think just looking at it in terms of literature, Fingolfin's way more tragic. But yes. I'm not going to discuss the religious stuff. I don't feel comfortable discussing that. But Fingolfin he quickly leaves to go join Finarfin. Finarfin's, of course, like, get over here. I got the feeling Finarfin was pretty terrified for Fingolfin. Those two quickly hurry away. They and other Noldor go to tattle, but this is a situation where you go tattle to gods, in this case, on Feanor, and you say, the guy's losing his mind. Fingolfin is pointing out that, I know, it's implied he knows where these lies are coming from. But the Valar go, well, I want to hear it from Feanor's mouth. I don't believe that. And it's only as the discussion is going on with him that Tulkas gets up, storms out in the middle of the hearing and goes, screw this. I know exactly who did this and why, and I'm going to go wring his skinny little neck. It's Tolkas, our boy Tolkas. What do you think of him just storming out of there, and apparently even at one point going to fetch Orome to go, and so that the two of them could go hunt down Melkor. Melkor would wipe the floor with Orome. But Orome, screw that, I'm going to kill him. Sorry, I love Orome. He's just such an awesome character.
It's one thing to say, okay, I want to hear the other guy's point of view.
Which I think that is part of it. The Valar are going, we heard Fingolfin's version, now we gotta hear Feanor's. But Fingolfin does point out Melkor. They don't believe that till they listen a bit more to Feanor's story and go, oh shoot, yes, this has Melkor painted all over it in big ugly red letters.
But the problem is, the Valar essentially gave Melkor 5 minutes head start.
Feanor, though, is exiled to Formenos, along with his 7 sons who choose to go with him. They choose to follow him rather than stick with their mom, Nerdanel. This is essentially all but a divorce, or at least a separation, and I can't help but think the mom should have gotten custody here. Yeah, I know all 7 are grown adults, but honestly, she was the reasonable one. There are times when the guy's more reasonable. Now, Melkor finds himself a place to hide from Tolkast and goes to approach Formenos. Part of me wonders, how does he know Feanor's in Formenos? Is someone spying for him?
Pretty likely.
My suspicions had to land on someone. I'd say it's Curufin. He's one of the younger sons. He's kind of a treacherous snake. He's also father to Celebrimbor, and the knowledge of what his father and grandfather did later haunt Celebrimbor. And he dedicates his life to trying to rectify things, and because of this, he's tortured to death for doing the right thing over and over again. Melkor, as he approaches Fëanor and goes, "Hey, bro, can I have the Silmarils?" essentially. And Fëanor tells him, No. Finwë gets very scared. Now, Finwë, this is where I'm going to agree with Girl Next Gondor. Completely. What do you think of Finwë just going, "No, why are you punishing my son? He didn't do anything wrong."
Blinded by love and golden child
Syndrome. And Fingolfin is appointed king to rule in Finwë's absence, which just causes Fëanor to hate him even more and believe Fingolfin manipulated the whole event. It's such a complicated situation, and you really gotta praise Melkor as a villain for having staged it so perfectly. Of course, poor Indis has to watch her family get torn asunder, and her husband basically choose his firstborn over her and her children, again, after all she's done for him. One last note, I wanted to get on this earlier, but it's been said in other people's videos that there must have been a huge age disparity between Fëanor and Fingolfin. The belief was that Fëanor was born before Finwë had arrived in Amon. Actually, it's stated in this chapter, Fëanor was born after, because Miriel and Finwë only married after reaching Valinor, which means that Fëanor, yes, there'd probably still be a huge age gap between him and Fingolfin. We're led to believe it was quite some time, but quite some time can mean anything from 14 years or something to 1,000 or 2,000 years. But I would posit that it was within the same century, and that this might be why Fëanor was so sore. We've discussed this into the pavement. I didn't think we'd get through an entire chapter in one video. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button like you're Morgoth trying to smash Fingolfin into itty-bitty pieces with his warhammer.